Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industry.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 104 of the Empowering Industry Podcast. It's coming out January the 31st. I'm your host, Charlie Matthews, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Bethany Womack.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you to all the listeners for choosing us like you do every week. Do us a favor. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, leave us a rating and review so that other people also find the show. This week, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to cover something from social media. We're going to preview the news from Empowering Pumps and Equipment. And then we're going to introduce you to a really awesome industry influencer. But first, Charlie, how was your week?
I have a great week. Oh, yay. Finally a great week. I'm healed. I'm back in action. I feel great. And so lots of planning. We're doing a lot of events and different things, but I actually got a random email inviting me to speak. And it was from the Associate Dean for Culver House College of Business, which is where I graduated from. It was a different name then, but because it was a long time ago.
At the University of Alabama, in case anyone has been living under a rock and doesn't know that that's where Charlie went to school.
Yes. So I'm super excited, but listen to this. They want me to speak on DEI. So it's a women's conference. And they want me to speak specifically on handling gender discrimination and harassment in the workforce. And I don't know why this excites me so much, but it was just like, yes, the message is out. And, to be a thought leader in this area, that makes me really happy to be able to support that community and give back to my school and something that matters to me. And I do think I have some experience in this that I can share and really help the women of business of the future. So anyway, it was just really exciting. And
think how awesome it would be if you went into your career having heard your story.
Oh my gosh. Exactly.
I
think just a couple little tips would have helped me, a lot. So anyway, what about you? What are you looking forward to? What's going on?
So my week is good. We're kind of back to normal here. The boys are back in school, which is wonderful. I feel a little bit more sane, but I'm excited because this week that this podcast comes out is your birthday week.
It is. I'm a little groundhog. So February 2nd is my birthday.
I just realized you and my grandfather share the same birthday. So that's my little interesting fact. But do you have anything fun planned?
Oh gosh, what do I have fun planned? Actually, this weekend we're doing something. Well, today we're going to see Corey and Brody. So Brody comes to town and we all the whole family comes over, but they said it could be a KK birthday party. So I was like, Yes, I'm there for that. Even though it's not on the day, I will do a dance party with all of my nieces. Sounds like perfection. Anytime I get to see my brothers, and my sister is coming too, is just it's a fun time. So looking forward to that.
So everybody, Wednesday's her birthday, February 2nd. Give her some shout outs. She did such a wonderful job of rounding up the troops to tell me happy birthday for my birthday this past month. I feel like I need to return the favor. So don't let me down, please.
I love it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So announcements coming up this month. We have our Sustainability Summit, which is going to be live on February 14th. I say participate live. You get to interact with the speakers, which the speakers are set now. So you can see that on our website, see what they're going to talk about, and plan to attend. And if you can't make it on the day of, it'll also be available as a webinar after. It's a free event that's really beneficial to our audience. Anyone interested in sustainability, no matter where you fit in the product chain of our industry, it's a good fit for you.
Yeah. And what you said about being live, I think it really is worth signing up and being there because we have two panels in particular that you can ask questions. And that really does make it a lot better and robust as far as the discussion goes. I love a panel and being on a panel or either asking questions to the panel. And so looking forward to that and seeing who actually cares about sustainability. So if you're signed up, I know that, which is great information for us. The digital magazine came out. It's beautiful. And I want to say how I really like the comments that I've been receiving through email of people who are reading it and enjoying this particular issue. So just a little extra push to check it out if you haven't done that. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah,
Go
especially
ahead.
if you're headed to AHR, because I feel like there's several
Mhm.
articles in there that are targeted for our AHR audience. We put a lot of thought into when these are coming out and what events are coming out. Becca's going to be at AHR. So if any of our listeners are there and you want to meet up with her, send her a message. But it's a really good read. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. One more thing, just the AHR videos that you and Becca put together. She's doing a great job with her interviews, and I just love that. And I've loved seeing them being shared. But also, I know who's editing them, Bethany Womack. And so great job there.
It's a team effort, and I'm really proud that we're able to release those videos. I think it was a good change that we made because of COVID, because when we weren't having in-person events, but now it's something good that we can keep going even when we are having in-person events. And our partners are doing some really awesome things, and I'm glad that we're able to give them a platform to share that information.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get social. This is where we're going to fill you in on something you need to know about social media that'll help you in this industry.
We're going to start with Manufacturing Monday. This week's first manufacturer. Every time I'm going to say first manufacturer.
That's me.
Because I'm reading it. Anyway, this week's manufacturer is Ultramotion. They are industry leaders in the electrical, mechanical, power transmission products. Their companies, there's many companies underneath this Ultra industrial motion platform, and they provide full range or full drive train solutions for the pump market and a collaborative just offering. I told y'all there's a lot of companies in there, but some of the products are couplings, backstops, overrunning clutches, speed reducers, gear motors, torque limiting devices, and belted drives, just to name a few. I'm sure there's something in there that we didn't mention, but specifically these are for the pump applications, which I love, of course, the pump industry, but so many others. I mean, they are helping, a wide range of the process industries as well. So thank you, Ultra Industrial Motion. Y'all check them out and see all of the wonderful things that their companies do.
And use that hashtag Manufacturing Monday to get in on that conversation. I love sharing these companies and seeing the other conversation that's happening with that hashtag on that day. It's a really fun way to get involved on social media. Another way to get involved is we have our virtual meetups for February. So the Empowering Women Meetup is coming up on Wednesday, February 9th, which is every second Wednesday of the month, and it happens at 11 a.m. Central Time. We're kicking off our book review, and the book we're going to be featuring is written by Gail Rudolph. It's called Power Up, Power Down. She's a wonderful, amazing author and speaker. She's been at our Empowering Women events, all of them actually that we've had. And this is just going to be a kickoff. You don't have to have read the book when you come.
Yes.
When you come, she'll give us an introduction of what the book's going to be about, and then we'll set out the plan for reading it and talking about it, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I love it. And, we do, always have a speaker. We also kind of break out and get to know each other on these meetups. So just getting to know Gail is definitely something you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to just say, I've actually finally got it in my head now that it is every second Wednesday. So it just pops up like when I'm telling people to come and visit
awesome.
this. Yeah. So I've been trained.
It only took a year and a half, but we're here. It's fine.
That's right.
Yes, and our Empowering Brands meetup is every third Tuesday. So in February, that's going to be February 15th, and it happens at 10 a.m. Central Time. Pre-register for those. The link is in the show notes, and we'll email you the Zoom invitation.
Okay. So I also want to mention how you get a shout out on the podcast. You use the hashtag Empowering Industry Podcast. We can search that up really easily that you have mentioned us. You can also mention us at Empowering Pumps. I want to give a shout out today to the Waterize Pro, Steve Hernandez, because I was talking to him. We love getting on the phone and just kind of talking strategy and motivating each other, two leaders in the water space. But he has listened to our podcast to where he can recite that we have the segments and what each is for. And I was just like, Bethany is going to love this.
Oh my gosh.
We've done it. Somebody is listening enough to say, like, we have segments and they go into, top level about a product. And then, you've got the industry interview and educating the industry. And I was just like, Steve, can you please call me tomorrow? Because this is what I need every day. But it was wonderful. Always wonderful to talk to him. And just, he's doing some amazing things.
Yeah.
He is planning, in November, the Construction and Maintenance Expo again. So we've got some, working out the dates for our event, which we'll talk about later. A little inside scoop if you want to ask me about it. Okay, back to you, Bethany.
Yes. Okay. Love Steve. He's a pleasure to follow on social media. He's really, I think, a thought leader in that space, the way he's grown his Instagram community, and to a point where he has this big community that he hosts events and things. Just the things he's doing, they're really awesome. Definitely follow him on there. And if you want to see me fall out of my chair almost from happiness of Charlie telling me that he knew the podcast segments, watch this episode on YouTube. So
yes,
just saying.
It was lovely.
That made me so happy. Okay, so it's the end of January. All January, we've been talking numbers and trends and what you need to know from social media. And so this is our last Monday in January. And so we're going to end it out with some more predictions and trends. Back at the end of December, Amber on our team, who does all our social media and a lot of publishing to our website, who is amazing, by the way. Everyone loves Amber. She attended a Sprout Social webinar titled 5 Trends from 2021 and 5 Predictions for 2022. She shared them with our team, taught us some really good information that we need to know and keep in mind as we're headed into 2022. And so I'm going to share that webinar, the link to the webinar, in the show notes for you. But then Charlie and I wanted to talk about the predictions we pulled out from this list that we wanted to highlight for you.
Okay, so number 1, DEI initiatives are here to stay. Just like we talked about, there's a whole conference around DEI. The associate dean that called me, his title was actually DEI. And so awesome. Love that. So start talking with your team about, what social issues are important to you that fall in line with your mission. That's so important. Also, you need to look and make an intentional plan to show diversity in your images and your marketing. It's so important to do and really include people in when you're creating these type of events and just promotions in general. Look to be more inclusive, and therefore, we're building something that does help in that DEI area by intention.
And I think this prediction is something that you have been a leader on with our company, because when we were at our team planning meeting, we talked a lot about our core values and where we connected, and started talking about sustainability a lot and the way that we can connect and share and inform people about sustainability this year. And, that's a social issue. And we're even talking about how it relates to DEI, and being able to share that, I think, is just so important.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I talk about sustainability, and I really researched that, underneath one of the, and I should know this, which number it is, but one of the goals is gender equality. And so sustainability and gender equality, and of course, so that's a lot that I am super passionate about. They just plug in and play, and it affects, clean water, et cetera. And so it's wonderful. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Prediction number 2, social data equals marketing data. So in the past, when marketers are doing their year end and they're talking about return on investment, they're looking at click-throughs on a website. They're looking at ad revenue and all these kind of things. Now we're saying that all of your data that you're pulling from your social media needs to be included into that. It needs to be looped into that. In a survey that Sprout Social did, 88% of marketers agree that their social media affects their bottom line. No surprise there, based on all of the time people spend on social media. So the prediction is this year, really start thinking about your social media, your numbers, your stats, how much interactions you're getting, and how that is actually affecting your bottom line.
Makes me think social media equals audience, people who care about you, people who your customers and clients. Anyway, okay. Number 3 is social impact spreads throughout your organization. Yes, it does, if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
It requires more collaboration with your team about social media. You need to have your hat on all the time thinking about social media, but so does your other departments and partners. Who can you work with on social media within your team and organization? And that just helps grow the impact that you can have on social media. We've told you the tips, right? Create the post and have your team like and share it, like number one. And so I get back to like, okay, is my team on board with social media? If not, like, can I give them like one task to help us along? Maybe even include them like with a picture or a story, even if they're not actively on social media. So just think about that. How can we spread social media throughout our organization?
Well, and thinking about it on like a macro level, that's like, how do sales and marketing work together? How
Mhm.
does the engineer tell his story? How does the marketer tell the engineer's story in a way that it connects with our audience? It's all big picture.
That's
Everyone
good.
needs to be tight with their marketing people. Okay.
Yeah, that's really good.
I love it. Okay. The last prediction that we think is relevant to you, important that we want to share with you, is that your community that you build is going to seep into everything you do, even outside of social media. So this relates back to what we've talked about social listening, and about really cultivating that community, your core audience, your cheerleaders of your business, your customers who really like you. Building that community where they can interact with each other, interact with you. And, we're seeing an increase in a value of having community managers and different ways that you can just help build that community, but then leverage it to help your business,
That's right. I mean, you're going to get so much information. We talked about that, like looking at that data. And a way to do that is to understand who your community is and who really cares about your content. Like Waterwise Pro earlier,
Yes.
right? Like he
Thank
like
you.
ties in and says, okay, I pay attention to this enough that I understand what you're doing here. And that makes all the difference. It knows that you're on the right track because he is somebody we want to be reading. He makes purchasing decisions. He influences the industry. So that is a person you want to kind of highlight. This is a community member that can also be an advocate, that also you can get information from to understand where you even need to go with your marketing messages, or product line, etc.
Yes.
Just whoever's listening out there, whether you're a marketer or not, you need to understand that community is important and figuring out how to get your data, like we said earlier. Yeah. Anything else from you, Bethany?
I just want to say, as we're wrapping up social media today, that next month our big focus is going to be on personal branding. Not to toot my own horn, but I think it's probably the area of social media that I understand the best and can talk to you about with the most authority. And I'm really excited about talking to you about strategies for how to build your personal brand, how to maintain your personal brand, how to change your personal brand, all these kind of things. And so, if you have any questions about personal branding that you want Charlie and I to cover over the next month, Charlie's doing a lot of personal brand leadership materials too. Send us those questions, tag us. You can message us on social media, or use that hashtag, and we want to make sure to get to that.
Yeah, and I'm nothing without Bethany. We can tell you all about the Charlie brand as well that she created. So I can't wait. It'll be a great time together next month. And it's my birthday month. So there you go.
Here we go. Okay, now we're going to move into the news.
I didn't dance. I threw you off.
You can dance if you want. It's your party. Dance if you want.
That's
What's
right.
the song?
It's our birthday.
Okay.
No.
Yes. Okay. In the news, this is where we're going to preview content that's going to be coming to your inbox this week, twice a week, in the Empowering Pumps and Equipment newsletter. Our team works really hard to cultivate and combine all of the news that we have that we're sharing from our partners into those newsletters so that it's all the news you need to know straight in your inbox. And we're here to share a couple of those news stories that we want to highlight.
Yes, and we love to highlight the industry person of the week. And this is Heidi Brooks. She is the Director of Sales and Marketing for BCP Sales. And check it out. I don't know how to transition to you, Bethany, but I know you want to say something.
I do. I read through her feature for the industry person of the week, and the question I wanted to share with you was, she said, what advice would you give to someone considering this line of work? And she said the corrosion industry, which translate this to any industry, any version of our industry that you want, it translates, is based on building relationships and hard work. She said, I've even helped partners and contractors with their social media presence, especially LinkedIn, to offer further value where needed in business and finding labor. And I'm like, this is a Charlie. She's a super connector.
And you know what? I didn't plan this. I didn't line this up, but this one happens to be today. So, I mean, this is a little defined intervention here, but I love when that comes into play, right? Social media, conversation, and then she loves it as well. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So do nominate somebody because, it's so important that we get to know the people that we can research and find amazing people as well. But we want to hear from you. And I think it gives a little extra love to them when you nominate, somebody on your team.
And I'm just going to say, nominate your people now, because every year we do an industry person of the year. We look through all of our industry people of the week. We award one as the person of the year, and they get a prize and get to be celebrated. And we've got some big plans to celebrate that person in an even more fun way this year. Actually celebrate all of the nominees and the winner. Not going to quite tell you what that way that is yet, but I'm saying you want to be on this list.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I mean, I can't. We need to have just a whole episode on our announcement. Okay.
You tell me when.
Yes, I will.
We'll do a countdown. Okay. My news story that I have for you today comes to us from our partner, ABB. It's titled, ABB Takes Action in Fight Against Climate Change. ABB is championing a proactive energy efficiency movement to educate U.S. industrial leaders about the challenges that contribute to energy wastage and environmental sustainability. So these goals can be achieved by upgrading outdated industrial infrastructure, which, by the way, infrastructure, you've talked about it on a couple of different interviews with people. I know when you were talking with the WEF president, y'all talked about infrastructure and the infrastructure bill, and on the Fluid Sealing Association, y'all talked about infrastructure. It's really so vitally important. And I had never combined that with sustainability and climate change and emissions. But through these goals, if you replace these outdated infrastructure materials with energy efficient technologies like high efficiency motors and variable speed drives, you can see a big effect on climate change. So, and additionally, bonus, what everyone cares about, or what I think our business owners care about, is the savings that can result from a company's increased energy efficiency. In up to 2 years, you can see your return back on investment, and then it's just savings from there. So really great article from ABB about how they're leading this push against climate change, and I'm here for it. I love to see it.
And HJ will be speaking at the Sustainability Summit. So you're going to want to listen in on that and ask him questions. And I think this article preview is just another reason why I love ABB as a client of ours. Thank you for partnering with us and sharing in this fight. Okay. I'm going to preview from Industrial Flow Solutions, flushable wipes clogging issues solved by removing the wet well. I thought this was interesting because I haven't thought of this before. This happened in Austin, Texas. A high-rise building with a grocery store and a restaurant experienced pump station faults from clogged submersible pumps 6 times in 2 months. Can you imagine having to go in there with all these clogged wipes and grossness?
What I want to say,
6 times in 2 months.
What I want to say from this is, I think that our industry, the water industry, the wastewater industry, we need to spend half the money we're spending on maintenance and repairs caused by these flushable wipes, and put it into some marketing people to tell these people that they are costing themselves extra tax dollars to fix these problems. What is wrong with them? How can we not explain to people that you can't flush wipes?
Don't flush the wipes. Okay.
I don't get it.
So I love this. It's listed out here. The main culprit is flushable wipes.
Sorry, I stole your thunder. I jumped ahead. I knew what the punchline was.
She put all this together.
And I'm
she
fired up, people. This is so dumb.
She's actually called me and sent me messages about flushable wipes and seeing this. And I do it too. Like if I see it on a brand in a bathroom somewhere, public bathroom, this is wrong. I want to just get this out of here. Okay, so there is a solution based on this article, and it was that they selected Overwatch direct inline pump system to solve their problems. And so the service team removed the submersible pumps, the piping, the rails, the control panel. The former wet well was turned into a dry pit, and they installed an inline pump system. That sounds a little cool because it doesn't sound like there's a lot of water and mess to clean up. I don't know. I want to read the article and get into it a little more, but it creates safe, clean, dry environment. The team is able to connect the suction directly to the invert and construct the discharge piping. Over the course of this day, the source of the pain and expense was diverted or converted, I guess, to a dry, clean, reliable pump station. And this is something that we want to, give you this information, that this is an option. And I am so thankful that we have partners that can share these solutions with us, because it doesn't seem to be going away. So Industrial Flow Solutions, thank you so much for this article and case study on where you actually fixed a problem for someone.
Yes, thank you for sharing and for teaching me something about this new pump system that I can learn and a new solution. I appreciate
getting her fired up about it. I love it.
I'm calmed down. I'm not flushing anymore. It's fine. Pun intended. Okay. Into our industry interview, we have a great author actually to share with you today who has 40 years of industry experience. Charlie, why don't you introduce your guest for us?
Yes, I love this guy, Robert Perez. He's amazing. I've seen him many events, but he's a mechanical engineer with over 40 years of rotating equipment experience. He's written for us a long time on compressors, but this one is particular. I'll get into this interview. It does talk about pumps, but he has experience in the petrochemical industry, refineries, chemical facilities, gas processing plants, and he also has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from where? Texas A&M University. Whoop. That one is for Bethany. He did go on and get his master's degree, but I won't
another
talk
school
about
down
that.
The road.
We won't talk about that right now. You can look it up. But he's authored so many articles, magazines and conferences. He's spoken 5 books. Co-authored 5 books. He's a technical editor for Kane's Rotating Machinery Dictionary. And then also, so spoiler alert, he has created a book with Heinz Block called Pump Wisdom, etc. There's some more to that, but all you need to know to get my attention and hopefully yours is Pump Wisdom.
Yeah, and those two powerhouses writing a book, definitely need to check it out.
Yes. So we won't. Well, there's a book, but there's also the interview.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add before we get there is what I really found inspiring about him was that he talks about in his writings and his books, it's all really geared mostly towards those people that are in the 0 to 10-year experience range, which I think is so important right now as we're seeing a transition in our workforce and baby boomers retiring and this big need to educate new engineers as they come in. So he has so much valuable insight to share, and I'm really excited to listen to his interview. So without further delay, here's your interview.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for joining me on the Empowering Industry podcast. I think the last time I saw you was at a Texas A&M Pump and Turbo show. But, I just want to start, Robert, I'm just thankful for you. You did so much for us and our industry and kind of educating our listeners and our readers at the time through Empowering Pumps. And you were talking to them about compressors. So I'm just thankful today to kind of introduce you to our listeners here on the Empowering Industry podcast. And we'll start with you. Just tell me your story. Tell me, who you are, what you're doing, what you want to share with our listeners.
Okay. Well, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas. So everybody knows I'm a Texan. I went to Texas A&M where I got my BSME Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. And then I moved on to University of Texas at Austin and got a master's degree. And I worked in the petrochemical industry for over 40 years. And so I guess I'm fortunate. I can say I've been in refining, chemicals, and pipelines. And so that gave me kind of a broad exposure to all the different aspects of petrochemicals. And I guess one of the turning points in my career, everybody wants to know about key points, key times. And in the mid 80s, Citgo formed a reliability engineering group. And so they were kind of one of the first people to really get into reliability engineering in petrochemicals. And so that really allowed me to be exposed, immersed into analyzing and troubleshooting rotating machinery. And that's really one of the keys. I think that, you really need to have an incentive to learn about machinery. And so if you're around problems all the time, then you can't help but study and learn and think and come up with solutions to those problems. And so one thing I was able to do was when I was at the really both at A&M and UT, was able to learn something about dynamics, system dynamics, and the way machines move and respond to different types of forces and pressures. And so I was able to take that basic knowledge and really turn into, I guess, a vibration analyst, and then learn about rotor dynamics, which is kind of a very specialized area, but very, very useful in machinery. And so that was really, I guess I started in reliability in this vibration field, but then I couldn't help but learn about all the other different types of machinery. So eventually learned about, everybody learns centrifugal pumps first. That's kind of an intro. Then got into compressors, centrifugal recips. And then a little bit later in my career, was fortunate enough to get into gas turbines. And that's kind of a real challenge for any mechanical engineer to learn about gas turbines and the way they operate and how they fail and all those kind of things. And so during that 40 years, became an expert in machinery, but also reliability engineering. That's something that's an interesting subtopic of rotating machinery. And then learning how to perform failure analyses. That's something that I think every engineer out that's listening to us should consider learning about. So that's kind of a real quick intro to how I got where I am.
Yeah, and you've been sharing knowledge in a lot of different ways through your writing. Of course, you've had so many different articles published and events that you've attended and did presentations that way. And like I said, I'm really excited to have you on here as a podcast interview. But you're sharing your knowledge in another way. And so we just recently talked about your book. And so tell us a little bit about why you created this book. And so it's all about pump wisdom, which I love. But go ahead and tell us why you created it.
Okay, well, really, most of I guess Heinz Block was really the impetus, or really the person that conceived the idea. The first edition was back in 2011, and I can remember because around that time I had another book coming out, and all of a sudden I said, "Whoa, what's this Pump Wisdom?" So I started looking at it, and it was totally different from anything that I'd seen. And looking at it, it's pretty obvious that it doesn't have a lot of equations. Most pump books you get have a lot of equations, and because they talk about pump design. And as I read this, I realized that it was pretty close to the kind of knowledge that I want to share with people in industry, which is more practical, best practices type of thing. And it covered a pretty broad range of topics: lubrication, how to do failure analysis, piping vibration, pump vibration. So it really covered a wide range of topics. And then I was minding my own business in early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And Heinz Block sent me an email just out of the blue. He said, "Oh, the publisher wants to have a second edition. Would you be interested?" And so, really hit me cold. I said, "Well, sure, anything I can do to help you." We've worked together on a couple of small projects, but nothing this big. And so then I told him, "Well, what do you want in it?" Because, the first book had already been written, and he told me, "Well, I want something about, maintenance philosophies, repair philosophies, and then also something about vibration analysis, really vibration monitoring." And that was pretty much it. Then he said you could really add anything else you want. And so it was kind of an open invitation. And so I said, "Okay, give me," and I know Heinz works really fast. So I thought, okay, well, I better give this some, quick thought, and then hit the ground running. And so that's kind of how it started. And I didn't realize the process was going to take so long. I think part of it was the pandemic. It was good because in the pandemic, I don't know if you feel the same way. We weren't able to socialize, but there was plenty of time, to work in isolation.
Right.
And so I took advantage of that to start writing and come up with ideas, and then share them with Heinz, and then Heinz would edit them and give me some ideas, and so that's kind of how it started. And we I think we're a little disappointed how long it took. It took a little bit longer than what we thought, but that's kind of the nature of the business right now when you're dealing with publishers.
Yeah, well, just a couple things from that. I mean, we've had Heinz Block on here to share his story. So our listeners, if the new listeners, go back and listen to Heinz Block. But I love that y'all got together on this and the collaboration, bringing, both of your knowledge together. The two-man writing team, I love how that's in the intro of the book. And so everybody listening, this is Pump Wisdom, essential centrifugal pump knowledge for operators and specialists. And so I think that that's really exciting to hear, that you have the operators in there, and that you're focusing on a lot of these reliability things that are so important, the understanding of that. I do want to read just a quick clip out of the example of the book. Next to electric motors, centrifugal pumps are the most frequent rotating machine man has ever built and put to use. Centrifugal pump users have access to hundreds of books and thousands of articles dealing with pump subjects. So one might ask, why do we need this text? We co-authors are certain that we need this text because an unacceptably large number of centrifugal process pumps fail catastrophically every year. An estimated 95% of these are repeat failures, and most of them are quite costly or dangerous or both. And so I just thought that that was really impactful. And I think it's important to talk about because, yes, there's all this knowledge out there, but it's not getting to people, and it's not getting to people in a way that we can kind of fix some of these problems. And so I love that. I love that y'all put this together. And, I think that just having the resource for people for the future is why I love it so much. But collaborating on this and kind of having all of your knowledge written down, what's your favorite part about the book?
Okay, well, and it's probably it's a chapter that Heinz wanted me to write, And so the way the chapter title is repair, replace, or modify. And so really, it's kind of a, condensation, a collection, of all the different ideas, as dealing with pumps through, that's the first thing any rotating equipment engineer gets involved in is pumps. And so through that, you see a lot of failures, you see a lot of problems. And so I thought I try to put all these together. And in this chapter, I kind of, I guess, forged all these ideas together into this particular chapter. So what it comes down to is, if a pump fails, then you want to know, what do I do with it? You really have three choices. You can throw it away, kind of like a swimming pool pump. You can repair it, or you can modify it. And so that's kind of where it all started. So then it also contains, so if you're going to repair something, let's say you've made the decision, if it's, I use the example of a swimming pool pump, probably throw it away. But then you have a larger pump that's more critical. Then you may decide, okay, well, I want to repair this pump as it fails. Well, then you need repair specifications. You need spare pumps. I'm sorry, you could have a spare pump, you could have spare parts. And so your philosophy could either be, if the pump fails, pull parts out of the warehouse and repair it, or have a rebuilt pump in the warehouse and then pull that out and just swap it out. That's a very common in my first refinery where I worked. That's what we did. We always had rebuilt pumps for the larger pumps. So they would just swap out what we call the mechanical end of the pump, which would include bearing housing and impeller. And so that's the first thing you got to decide is, am I gonna repair it, throw it away? Then if you're going to repair it, then you have different choices there.
And you had that pump because it was more of a critical pump, right? That when you have like one, that you can just easily fix, right?
Right. Well, you have to remember that in most let's not call them critical, let's call them essential. So you have two pumps or twin pumps, one's running and one's a standby. So if you pull one pump out, you don't want that pump to be out for 2 weeks. You'd like it to be out for, maybe 1 day, 2 days at the most, because you don't want the other pump to fail while you're waiting on a repair. And that, back in the 80s, reliability was very iffy. And so you wouldn't trust a pump to survive for a week, say. So what you would do is you would have two pumps, pull one out, let the other one run, swap it out with something from the warehouse, put it back in service. And so now you have two pumps again. You always want two pumps in service. So it was very critical to have quick turnarounds. And so, let's say that you didn't have spare parts, or you didn't have a warehouse spare or anything like that, then you'd have to pull a pump out, send it to wherever, Houston, and it might take 2 weeks to repair, 3 weeks to repair. And all this time, the whole plant is running on one pump. So that's not acceptable. So usually most people will have spare parts, maybe even spare mechanical ends, so that you can do that quick swap out. So, I think that's the way most processing plants operate. They have what I call twin pumps. Some people call them a main and a spare. And so you always have to have a pump in service. And so, you need to have spare pump, you need to have spare parts. So some people get crazy. I've seen people that have 2 spare pumps in the warehouse just in case. And so then you got to make the other decision, what spare parts do you need? And those spare parts could be mechanical seals, bearings. So, most people will on critical pumps have maybe 2 spare seals. So all these people have to make all these decisions. So, how do you, and that's kind of the purpose of the chapter is, what's a common repair philosophy and a spare parts philosophy.
Yeah. And then you talked a little bit about kind of the vibration analysis, which, helps people understand their equipment and when it needs to be repaired, I would assume.
Yes. Well, usually, yeah, these pumps are checked maybe monthly or weekly, depending on criticality. And so, that's usually what happens if you pull a pump out and you're running on one pump. You may check the vibration more frequently to make sure it doesn't fail in service. But yeah, we're on all these pumps. They're usually checked monthly, and so you can also kind of prioritize if something's starting to fail. Then you may want to make sure you have all the spare parts in the warehouse, and get ready for the repair.
Well, we don't want to give out all the information of the book, but I'm curious. I mean, I know it says it's for operators and specialists, but do you have a certain group of people, age group, or is it for people just coming into learning about the pumps and themselves? Who's the target for reading this?
Yeah, no, I would say most of what I write is always for people that are maybe 0 to 10 years. People that are learning, but there's enough in there for people that have been around a while. But one thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was to talk about making the business case for, because there's another option, and that's modify. So, what happens if you have a pump that fails 2 or 3 times in 1 year? Well, that's unacceptable. And so one thing that I find is rotating equipment professionals, they love to fall in love with their ideas. We all do. We have let's say we have a pump that's failing. And so, we're thinking, well, I'm going to upgrade that seal. And so, okay, I'm going to put this seal in. They fall in love with their idea, but then they don't know how to sell the idea. And so in that chapter, I hit on economics. I've learned a little bit later in my career, when you're starting out your career, you think you know a lot about design, and you know all the latest design upgrades, but we don't really see the world in an economic point of view. And to get anything approved nowadays, you really need to have economics. And that's something that's discussed in the book. And I talk about something that's called the annualized economic benefit. And a lot of people don't really think about that if I go from seal A to seal B, what's going to be the economic benefit? And you need to quantify it. And so really you also need to annualize it. So let's say seal A is costing you $25,000 a year because of manpower and seal cost and all that. Seal B will cost you $10,000 a year. Well, the economic benefit is $15,000. So you always need, when you talk about economics, you always have to look in terms of the delta. You need to look at the delta, the differential difference between what you have now and what you expect to get when you have the second upgrade. So it's very important that machinery professionals out there that they get a good grasp on economics, And so in the chapter, I talk very, very quickly about how to quantify economic benefits, and then also how to sell it to management. And there's a very simple method called the Payback Method, which is described in the chapter. And so that's really what I'm trying to get at, is that if you're gonna, there always has to be economics. If you it may make economic sense to throw a pump away, for example. In other cases, it makes sense to repair it. In other cases, it makes sense to do a re-rate, upgrade. So all these are discussed in that chapter.
Yeah, I'm just smiling because you have to have an equation in there, Robert. You couldn't have a book without an equation in there. And
Right.
just looking through the table of contents and everything from pump selection, industry standards, foundation, base plates, piping, sealing, gasketing, pump operation. You mentioned lubrication management, drivers, and then your chapter repair, replace, or modify. I think it's wonderful. And, I'm curious because one of the, I say that about the equations because pump calcs was such I guess, used resource that we've had from you and your team develop that. And, are you seeing that this is just part of what they need to know? So this is one book or a revision to a book. Is there more to come?
There's always more to come.
He's a writer at heart, y'all.
Yeah, actually, I was asked to put together a book series, which I've been working on frantically. It's a totally different publisher, Scrivener Publishing, and the book series is titled Rotating Machinery Fundamentals and Advances. And actually, volume 1 is going to be coming out real soon. I mean, it's been sent to the printer, so
That's wonderful.
maybe in a month or two. So I don't know how I ever fell into this writing gig, but I think part of the problem is that there are a lot of engineers that I talk to that they don't want to write. They either say it's too hard, or I'm no good at it, or I don't have time, or whatever, So I do want to encourage the listeners out there to consider writing, because there's very, very few engineers who want to write.
Yeah, I'll second that. We definitely need that, and we need it. You need everybody's story for one. I love storytelling and learning people's story, but also it's so important to capture the knowledge that we have and work together on these processes that make sense and continue to work, and then looking at things that we need to improve. And I think having this documented tells us how we've done it, and looking at kind of future things, future technologies, we'll always have a place to kind of go back and look. So I'm really excited to have this resource for everyone. So Pump Wisdom, it is on Amazon, so everybody can get their copy. I've ordered mine and look forward to that. Since I'm 0 to 10 years now, I'm a little over that, Robert. I'm at going on 18 years in the industry. That's crazy to me. But I hope that people understand the value of this and the value of, I guess, the craft of creating the habit or using the muscle. That's what it is. It's using the muscle of writing, right? And getting into that habit of doing it and sharing your knowledge because that's what we're going to need for the future. So just thank you to Heinz Block. We'll have to send him this interview as well. And, I would love to get you guys on, I don't know, some type of lunch and learns or deep dive into a few things in the book once we get this out and get it in the hands of people. Anything else, Robert, that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I had a couple of notes about, just some basic advice.
Yes.
And for people out there is, always never specialize too much. We want to learn, we all want to learn about all the different areas of machinery, lubrication, vibration, performance. Don't become too specialized and say, oh, I'm only a lubrication guy, or I'm only a vibration guy, because you can't get away from all the different kind of related topics to machinery. And then also make sure you make professional connections. go to seminars and symposium, technical meetings. They're very important. You never know when there may be somebody sitting next to you that knows a lot about something that you need to learn from him. So make a lot of connections. And then one other thing that is kind of underreported or under really encouraged is get involved in root cause failure analysis. That's the way that you learn is by looking at failures. So get in the shop and look at broken parts and talk to people and then also write the reports, because if you do an RCFA, you've got to write the report, and that forces you to put your ideas on paper and then support them. And then finally, what I would say is go to the field and go to the shop often. I've learned so much in shops, and there's only so much you can learn from a book. So you need to go out there, go in the field, look overhead, look down, look around, talk to operators, very important. And then in shops, those usually shops are really good at what they do. And so ask them questions. They're the experts. And so you can learn a lot in their techniques and their equipment and their methods. And I guess one final thing is, which I talked about before, is learn about economics. Don't be afraid. Pull out your old economics books and read about all the different methods, and because that really is the key to getting anything sold. And it also helps your promotability, as people say, oh, this person has a business sense about what he's doing. So,
yeah. That's so true. And I can't stress it enough when we're having our conversations, just the understanding of, what a C-suite has to deal with for one. But then how are you going to just pitch this idea to the boss? There's a lot of tools that go into that, from taking that first step to talking to your neighbor. So there's some communication skills that need to be learned to network. And then, understanding, what does it cost? What does it really cost, and make that case. I love that, Robert. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you hopefully soon. And, anytime, I'd love to have you back.
You're welcome, Charlie. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, we're back. Thank you, Charlie, for bringing Robert on and having him and explaining his book and all the different principles that he's teaching people about. One of the things I thought was most interesting was talking about the economic decisions in the maintenance decision-making tree and how they decide what they're going to do, because it's an important part of making a decision is where the money comes from and how you sell it. And hearing someone kind of crystallize that was, I think, very valuable. And I hope our audience found it useful as well.
Yeah. And I loved it. I mean, I was actually searching and looking, on the internet, asking, where do people get this pump knowledge? Like, what books are they using in colleges and different things? And so I think I told you about that one of these podcasts, reaching out and talking to professors, and then to know the author. Like, I had my picture made with them. I took his picture with Heinz that y'all will see. It's in the folder.
Okay, perfect.
But they're, that makes it real for me. And I know him. I know his expertise. And then to have a book that those two professional pump industry professionals came together and created this book. I'm for it. I bought mine. And so I'm not going to, what do you say? I know just enough to be dangerous in the pump industry.
Yes.
But this is, one of those books that I will treasure because I know these people and they have done a lot for our industry. So thank you so much, Robert Perez and Heinz Block, for all that you do.
Yes.
And that brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Do us a favor, subscribe, rate and review the podcast. 5 stars, people.
That's right. We know you love it. Y'all are telling
Yes.
us. So go ahead and let the world know so that they can enjoy it as well. You can reach us at Empowering Pumps using that hashtag Empowering Industry Podcast, all together, Empowering Industry Podcast. And then email us at, podcast@empoweringpumps.com.
And we'll be back next Monday with a new episode.
So until then, be empowering. I think it's the dancing. I was missing the dancing earlier.
The story that I'm previewing this week for you comes to us from our partner ABB. It's ABB Takes Action in the Fight Against Climate Change. So ABB is championing.
Yeah,
A champion.
I mean, you're saying it.
I can't.
Champion. I'll do the country version.
Okay. I'm going to start over again. I'm sorry.
I'm good for it. They are a champion.
ABB is
They
championing a proactive energy efficiency movement. Okay. I'm good.
This is how you get it right, y'all.
I can do it.
She's totally editing this out. Don't worry.
100%. Sorry, ABB.